Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope you're doing well. I want to share with you three responsibilities of every talibul ilm. Three things that the mashayikh, the shuyukh, the scholars, the ulama have stated you must do these three, and if you do these three, inshallah, you will be a successful student. And then I'm going to add a fourth thing on top of that, inshallah. So the three things are in regard to your academic journey, your development as a student of knowledge. And you can think of it in terms of around your dars, around your lesson. Before the lesson, there is one responsibility. During the lesson, there's another responsibility. And then after that lesson, there's another third responsibility. And then I'm going to add a fourth one, a long-term responsibility. If you do these three, inshallah, you will be successful. And of course, if you do the fourth, you will become extremely strong, inshallah, in your ilm. Now, these three things are not some kind of secret. Every single madrasa, every single institution, the shuyukh in those institutions, they really emphasize these three. But just in case you didn't hear about them or you are a new student of knowledge, inshallah, I would like to share that with you right now. So, before the lesson, your responsibility as a student of knowledge is to actually look ahead and anticipate the lesson. So if you know that your teacher is going to teach the next few pages, you know exactly where the teacher is going to start from. What you have to do before the class is actually look at that lesson and try to understand it. This is called Muṭāla'ah. Muṭāla'ah, studying and looking ahead. So the goal here in Muṭāla'ah is not to fully grasp the lesson. If you fully grasped the lesson, you wouldn't need a teacher. Right? And it's not really practical for a student of knowledge to fully grasp the lesson. That's why they have teachers. The goal of Muṭāla'ah is to actually acquaint yourself with the material. So when you do Muṭāla'ah, what actually happens is in your mind, you're formulating different aspects. Firstly, you know the subject matter of the next lesson. You know what to expect. You also understand where the easy points are and where the difficult points are. Why this is important is because when you come across the easy points, you've already understood them to some degree. Now all you have to do when the teacher is teaching is ascertain, did you understand it right or wrong? So that's relatively easy. You will also understand, do I need to really focus on note-taking right now, or do I just have to listen? And another point is you're going to have beneficial questions. I'm going to get back to that later on. So that's the aspect of Muṭāla'ah regarding the easy parts. The other aspect of Muṭāla'ah is it allows you to understand where are the difficult points in the next lesson. Why this is beneficial is because when that lesson comes, when you're sitting in class in front of your shaykh, you know that I really need to focus on this point. I really need to not be dozing off, not be relaxing. My notes, my pencil, my pen, it needs to be ready to write as soon as my teacher starts talking about this point, because I didn't understand it. And without my teacher's commentary, I'm not going to understand it. So that is why Muṭāla'ah is extremely important. The difference between a student who does no Muṭāla'ah and one who does do Muṭāla'ah is tremendous. A friend of mine, he told me, and this is his expression, he says, when I do Muṭāla'ah and I go to the lesson, I feel like a king. I feel like a king. That's what he says. Why? You feel like, you got it. You understand what's happening. And then you just have to fill in those little blanks, and you pretty much mastered the lesson after that. And a person who does no Muṭāla'ah, they don't know what's happening. They don't know, what to expect. They're just taking full notes and engrossed in note-taking as the teacher speaks for the entire lesson, whilst it was actually not necessary at all. So they would not know what's easy, what's difficult, none of that. So it really preps the mind and gets you adjusted for that lesson. It also gives you an understanding whether you're understanding right or wrong. And you will see as a student of knowledge, you're starting to develop more and more. And your understanding and faham is getting stronger and stronger, where what the teacher explains the next day is in accordance to how you understood. So it's a good way to gauge how strong you're becoming. So that is the first action. That is the responsibility of the student. The second aspect, number 2, in the class itself, when you are in front of the shaykh, the teacher is teaching, you need to have full tawajjuh. Tawajjuh. So the first thing is called Muṭāla'ah. That's a preparation for the lesson. Number 2 is Tawajjuh, focusing on the teacher's lesson. What the teacher is giving is extremely important. What you have to do in this situation is, of course, the student of knowledge should not have any commentaries, any kind of shuruh in front of the teacher. That's actually contrary to adab and etiquette. Some students used to do this, and our teachers caught them, and they were very upset at that. So do not bring commentaries. Do not ask the teachers questions based off of certain commentaries. Meaning, when the teacher is explaining something, don't be like, Ustad, but in this commentary, in that commentary, it says this and that. It's better not to do that. What you'll find is that Ustad actually knows all of the commentaries. They're giving you the best opinion. Now, you wouldn't know that unless you study a lot yourself. So you just take what the Ustad gives you. You can study the commentaries later. That's not a problem. But don't bring that to the lesson and start causing a disturbance. When the teacher is teaching, focus in, especially on those hard parts. Be focused. Have your rest beforehand. If you need to have some tea, some coffee, something to keep you awake during the lesson, do all of that. Ensure you're getting your rest. And then write down those notes. Focus in on everything. Thereafter, if you have questions and the teacher allows you to ask those questions, you may do so and you may get some clarification. So that's number 2, tawajjuh, and focus in the class, taking necessary notes. And some scholars, they actually are averse to taking notes. Some scholars emphasize the tawajjuh portion so much, they say that your focus should be laser focused on the ustad. Whatever the ustad is saying, you're really focusing in on it, and you're trying to recall everything that he is saying whilst getting more information. This actually trains the mind to retain all that information. And so you just listen with 100% focus. After the lesson is over, now you jot the notes. That's according to some scholars, but that's for those who are very strong and who can retain all of that. The general student, and most teachers allow you to take notes, you should be taking your notes during the lesson. So that's number 2. Number 3, that night or anytime after that lesson, before the next lesson, you need to do what's called Takrār. Takrār is repetition, revision of that lesson. So now you've done your Muṭāla'ah, you know what's difficult, what's not. You focused in on the class, you solved all of the things that needed to be solved. So you got a good understanding of the lesson now. There's no ambiguous points. You've asked your questions, you got your answers. Now you do a final revision of that. And you're looking at the whole thing again. And this should be quick. It shouldn't be too difficult. You got all the things, you got all the notes, and you understand the text. You have your notes. Try your best to understand the text on your own. What this means is, let's say you have Mukhtasar al-Quduri, you're reading a line of that text. Don't try to use your notes to understand it. Meaning study the notes beforehand, understand, test yourself by looking just at the text and seeing if you can understand the text directly or not. If you can, that means you fully understood. If you require to keep going back to the notes, you need to strengthen that more. You need to spend more time in the takrār and solve all of those issues that you're having. If you do these 3 things, you have done your responsibility as a student of knowledge regarding that particular lesson. This must be done for every class, and it must be done on a daily basis. Now, this is actually difficult. Because if you're having about 7 or 8 classes a day to do these 3 things, the Tawajjuh you can do, alhamdulillah, it's not taking extra time. Muṭāla'ah for all of your classes and Takrār for all of your classes, it takes a lot of time. In those situations where you're pressed for time, you need to really decide which subject gets your attention. The more difficult subjects, you need to give it your full attention. The more easier ones, you can delay that Muṭāla'ah Takrār or just not do it at all. It really depends on you. And the strongest students, they do it for pretty much all of them. So these are the 3. The last thing that I will mention, the 4th aspect, which will really solidify you as a student, is to have a Dawr. Dawr revision, a larger revision, not a daily revision. So what a Dawr is let's say you've been studying for a month. The new year started, you're 1 month in, you've been doing your Muṭāla'ah, Tawajjuh, Takrār on a daily basis. Now you have a good sizable amount of lessons that have been completed. The Ustad doesn't necessarily revise for you. That's up to you. So you have all this information of this text, and you're just doing more lessons every single day. You have a lot in the back that you've already covered. You need to have a system of revising that. So every single day for the most difficult subjects, because this is a lot of work if you have, like I mentioned, about 8 classes to do Muṭāla'ah, Tawajjuh, Takrār, and Dawr for every class. You choose the hardest classes for your Dawr. Every single day, do a little bit more than what you cover in one lesson. Do a little bit more than what you cover in one lesson on a daily basis. Why do I say this? Because you want your Dawr to catch up to your present lesson. If you're doing less than what you cover on a daily basis, in your revision, your long-term revision, you will not catch up to your lesson. The goal here is to start your long-term revision. You start from the beginning of the book. You do a little bit more than your daily lesson. Maybe you do 2 daily lessons. And then you reach up and you catch up to your daily lesson where you are. Of course, that's going to be moving forward. You catch up to where you are. Then when you reach that, you start over again. So that's it. That's all you have to do, inshaAllah. When you do that, inshallah, you will become a strong student. These are your responsibilities as a talibul ilm. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for tawfiq. وصلى الله تبارك وتعالى على خير خلق محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.